All right. All right. Everyone who's joining us here for group therapy tonight. Russ and I are talking as we were getting ready to go on how disappointing and infuriating really this loss is for UConn and for us. Russ Steinberg of a Dime Backs with me today for our post-game show. John Fanta should be joining us in just a few minutes here. Vent with us. Put your comments in the chat there. We go over whatever you guys want to talk about. But Russ, I don't even know where to start here tonight. There are just so many things that just really annoyed me about that game. What was the most annoying part for you?
Well, I think it's what everybody has been saying and thinking, which is that Adama Sunogo left the game with UConn up by 8 points with about 12 minutes left and then never saw the court again. And St. John's had no answer for him. Yep. I hope that this is just a horrific mistake by Dan Hurley and that he's not hurt.
Yeah.
But him being hurt would be the only logical explanation. That probably was the most upsetting part. And then, we could get into this after the missed free throws, missed layups, particularly from Tyrese Martin. A poor defense in the half court, letting St. John's dominate UConn off the dribble for most of the game, and UConn not being able to help out a guy like Tyler Polley, who was so overmatched on that end, and Polley staying in the game for so long when he wasn't hitting his shot. And then you could talk about those critical possessions down the stretch when UConn had nothing going. The play where I think it was Whaley who tripped on the baseline and lost the ball, or that awful shot by Polley taking the three in that last possession. So much about this game was upsetting, and I think for that reason, it's more of a gut punch even than the Creighton game.
Yeah, no, I agree. Because it's a game. I mean, they were up 14. It's a game. You go in even without book night. You think it's a game that they should be able to win, and then it's just all those little things that add up. You mentioned them all there. I mean, for me personally, missed free throws are just such a pet peeve for me. Like, if there was one thing those Ollie era teams did well, it was shoot free throws. And if there's one thing I wish could carry over, it's that. We saw bite at Creighton, saw then again in this game today. I like a dime back here. Russ, if you think it's time to give Andrew Hurley a look, maybe he can knock down free throws. Yep.
If he could play defense, sure.
But you mentioned the missed layups there. I don't know what it is about this. I mean, apparently practices are such a cauldron of intensity, as they call them, the brutality, yet when there's no one around there and there's no brutality, it's like they don't know what to do. Maybe practice needs to be toned down and it's just like shoot layups wide open. I don't know.
It's the dime back theory that Tyler's is that practices are so intense. There's so much contact that players anticipate it now. And then when it doesn't come, they don't know how to react to it.
Yeah. No, I think that's a very valid theory there, and one we're kind of seeing play out, because it's not like this has just been a one game occurrence where we've seen missed layups and all, but today it really came to a head, and now we've got everyone's favorite John Fanta joining us. John, welcome.
Hey, John.
Guys, good afternoon. Wow, what a wild game. You just do not know in this conference what's going to happen. That was a pretty remarkable finish and a comeback by St. John's. I'll open with this. Before this game, St. John's in the Mike Anderson era was 1-12 in Big East road games.
All right.
Okay, they were due. This was tough. This was tough, John. And I mean, I know that, in a game where you don't have James Bouknight, you don't have Andre Jackson, you get basically nothing from Tyler Polley. Isaiah Whaley only plays well in small stretches. It's amazing that it was even a close game and that UConn had control for a good amount of it. There were, through everything, I think there were still some good things for the Huskies, but down the stretch, it got so ugly, and it looked like as a team, they were just taken out of it once St. John's went ahead. And even at that point, St. John's up 1-2 points. The game's nowhere near over yet, but you just felt like it wasn't going to happen.
Yeah, I agree with you. It didn't feel like UConn had the pieces in this game late to come out with a win. And the biggest thing there is you're without your star player. When you don't have your alpha and you're challenged by a team that was defending at a high level, and you have to credit St. John's defensively. They really turned it on here down the stretch and figured things out on the defensive end of the floor. And I just think, actually, UConn was its own worst enemy in this game in some regards. So in the first half, they hit 6 threes. So what does that tell you? It tells you, all right, you're in a mojo. But you look at that first half score, it's a 3-point game. So UConn gets hot from 3, and they're only up by 3 at the half. That's a message to me that says, well, don't get too in love with it. And I think that Dan Hurley not having any timeouts, and Tyler Powley even that 3, maybe things go differently. Maybe they set something up. But also, you got to make free throws. And in the 2 Big East losses that UConn's had, they've missed free throws in key points in these games. And for Tyrese Martin, it's unfortunate, one rimmed out. I think things go differently if he makes that. But again, you don't have James Bouknight. And credit to St. John's. They shot 6 for 9 from 3 in the second half. And Marcellus Earlington played his best half of the season. That was unexpected. He played pretty well. So, UConn fans are going to be upset, but welcome to the Big East. I mean, that's how this league is. You're going to lose some games, especially when you don't have your star, James Bouknight, and you're in a tight game late. It's really hard. Look at Creighton at Butler. Creighton didn't have Zagorowski down the stretch. They end up losing. They didn't have a big-time playmaker, shot maker in that game, and they lost. It happens.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't think there's anything I saw in this game that makes me think long-term UConn should be really worried.
Right.
Especially considering they're going to, barring any setbacks, get Bouknight back well ahead of the Big East tournament, we hope. I don't think that there was anything in this game that it should carry over. At least I hope not. I hope I'm not wrong here.
No.
The only long-term thing for me is I just know I'm going to hate Josh Alexander going forward for the next few years. He's just one of those guys I know is going to just get under my skin every time UConn plays St. John's.
But don't you love having those guys again, though?
Yeah,
that didn't have that in the AAC for the most part.
Well, and that's the thing is, and this is nothing against the previous league that UConn was in at all. But I will say this: outside of losing to DePaul, who's been in the basement of this conference, you're going to have some moments in the Big East where you're going to fall short or you're going to take a loss. And I don't think there's no need to be heavily concerned about this loss if you're a UConn fan. You had won 4 in a row. You were riding a bit of a high. You're back home. You had that week layoff. I don't think that there's long-term concerns for this team at all. I thought R.J. Cole looked really good early, and I thought the biggest revelation from a UConn standpoint is that was Adama Sunogo, the big-time recruit that Husky fans were anticipating. He had some plays today that a big man doesn't typically make. So I thought UConn played their game. You have to credit St. John's because a St. John's team that could have lied down by 14 figured out a way back into this game, and they had some unexpected sources. Like if you're Dan Hurley, you say, yeah, I'm going to sign up to hold Julian Champagny to 0 for his first 7 from the field. And if we do that and we get good performances from Cole and Sunogo and Tyrese Martin, then we're probably going to win the game. St. John's had some unexpected sources of scoring. It happens in college basketball, and the Red Storm needed it. They absolutely needed a win like this, and they got it.
And I think things will get interesting because you turn around from a game like this and then you go in and play at Creighton come Saturday for UConn. And I think in some ways it could be kind of an interesting twist of things here. For them, you get the team fired up into a game that on paper without Bouknight heading into Omaha, you probably think you're going to lose. It's tough enough to go into Creighton with a full roster at full strength and win there. But now you come off a game, you're pretty pissed off at this. You've got the week pretty much to get some new plays in, whatever they want to do here, work on some things.
Sure.
But I think it's going to be interesting to see how they come out on Saturday and see what they look like, because I think that'll tell you a lot about this team and kind of their backbone heading into the rest of the season.
Yeah, and for a lot of the second half of this game, and I know it's been mentioned on Twitter already and kind of alluded to it in the chat here, this didn't look like a Dan Hurley coach team for a lot of stretches down, the last few minutes of this game. And say cauldron of intensity, I imagine practice is going to be brutal this week, especially covering defense in the half court. When as we talked about, UConn let St. John's guards beat them off the dribble time and time again, and UConn didn't have anybody to rotate over and help when Tyler Polley would get beat. It's things like that Dan Hurley is going to drill into this team's head throughout the week. And I don't think with this loss, I feel significantly worse about the Creighton game, to be honest with you. I mean, Creighton just lost to Butler. UConn just lost to St. John's. They're not losses you expect to happen, but, John, as you said, they do. And, if UConn comes out on Saturday and Tyler Polley's hitting threes all over the place, then who knows? You could win that game. I don't expect them to, but, it's kind of playing with house money in that one. No one's supposed to win at Creighton.
No, that's a great point. Nobody is supposed to win at Creighton. And I think for UConn going into that game, what UConn has to say is, okay, who are we? Who are we? You're not a three-point shooting team. You are a sound defensive squad who's going to out-physical and just take you to the meat grinder and make you work for everything you get. The problem is it's really hard to do that against Creighton because they could play 4-out, 1-in. They could even play 5-out if they'd like. But Seton Hall went to Creighton. Okay, they go to Creighton 2 weeks ago. They get blown out. They played smaller. And head coach Kevin Willard said after the loss, I wish I had stuck with my bigs because you can't play Creighton's game and win. So Creighton is okay if Tyler Polley comes down and hits a three. Because to Creighton, that says Tyler Polley now feels confident. He might take 2 or 3 more threes. And guess what? Off a back rim, we're going to take it. We'll go down and we'll cash in. We'll end up scoring more points off of that because he might feel confident in his shot. You have to really be disciplined in that game. And you've got to be who you are. And I think, today, like, who was UConn? Well, they were a team that didn't have their star player down the stretch in the game, and a team that has a scorer in R.J. Cole. But I think that we can all agree, like, in the half-court offense, UConn wasn't getting to some of their sets or some of their rotations until late in the shot clock, and it led to them scrambling at times.
Yeah, I think Russ and I talked about that play too, where you get Whaley kind of tripping out of bounds there. It just wasn't in rhythm, and it definitely St. John's credit to them on the defensive end, pestered them up and down the court. All 30 seconds there, the shot clock, and made things tough for them. Again, still kind of waiting to hear from Dan Hurley on where Adama Sunogo might have gone for those last chunk of the game there, because he wasn't seen from it, and he played small that whole rest of the game. You saw Whaley playing the 5, and that was it. You didn't see Josh Carlton at all, and I'm not saying that necessarily might have made any difference there, but you didn't get that other big in the game. And I don't know. When you see things turn the way they did, I definitely was surprised they didn't go back to the bigs.
Yeah, I mean, you had one thing that was clearly working for you. St. John's did not have an answer when Sunogo was able to catch it cleanly. And then he goes to the bench with about 12 minutes left, doesn't come back in. I hope he's not hurt. That's all I could say. I really hope it's just some coaching decision that Dan Hurley has to explain, because that's a whole lot better than the alternative.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting to see the explanation we get there. John, I've got a question for you. Have you ever seen a team miss so many layups?
Yeah, I have. I've seen a team.
He's watched UConn before.
Trust me, I've seen teams miss layups. You got to remember, there's a lot of basketball going on, both men's and women's, in which we watch some missed layups. But they missed some layups that were glaring today. And what was weird about this game was, for me, you allowed St. John's to get to the rim as easily as you did. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what people are commenting in. I mean, we have some comments coming in that are saying, there was no help. There needed to be better help defense there on those drives. I mean, the Julian Champagny finish, he was able to finish at will on a set to make it a 4-point game. That's your ball game right there. Mm-hmm. So they missed layups in this game. And when they were up 14, I thought that they allowed, they got complacent in the course of the game. They did. They allowed St. John's to creep back in. And then St. John's just kept hanging around, and it didn't even seem like this was a game. And this is why, Jared, to your point, UConn to me controlled the majority of a game they lost.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of makes this a strange game? You think about a couple things: 9 for 22 on layup attempts. I mean, wow, that's unbelievable. But how about this? I would have never, covering St. John's, I would have never been able. St. John's outscored them in the paint 32-28. So think about it. You missed 13 layups. That's a huge difference there. And then the fact that these two teams were even on the glass. I mean, St. John's had one of the worst rebounding margins in the conference. I know our friends in Milwaukee always say rebounding margin isn't a thing. I don't care. I don't give a damn. It is a thing. And UConn didn't put that full physicality on display that we typically see from them, I felt, in this game.
And I think when you talk about them just letting St. John's hang around, it seemed like constantly in the second half it would go from 8 to 3. Then UConn would push it back up to 7 or 8. St. John's would come back, make it 3 or 4 point game, and then ultimately St. John's just taken over and outbullying them kind of down the stretch there.
And we saw this in the DePaul game too, as well.
Yeah.
UConn went up 17-6 and looked like they were just going to roll against a team they beat by 20 a couple weeks before. They let DePaul come back into the game, and UConn had to sweat it out down the stretch. The first half played out a lot like that, especially when once St. John started making that run, UConn started to not really be able to get anything in the half court, just like in the DePaul game.
Mm-hmm.
John, I know you were kind of high on St. John's heading into the season, and to see where they've been, and then you see that today. Today you look like a genius, but maybe those first 6.
I didn't expect that earlier. Well, here's the thing about that. Let's look at this. Let's look at this team for a moment, okay? So you have 2 freshmen in Alexander and Adaiwusu who played well today. Let's look at Adama Sunogos. Played well today. It didn't play down the stretch. Hopefully it's not an injury. But that's freshmen, right? Alexander's a pest. His effort's constant. It doesn't always equivocate to baskets made. Today he was scoring the ball well. So they have those 2. They have transfers in Vince Cole and Isaiah Moore, who are JUCO transfers, who I think, I think have looked like JUCO guys that have had trouble adjusting at times to the pace, to everything going on. Marcellus Earlington, I thought, was going to be a main piece for this team. Today he finally was. It's come and gone. And Champagny has taken a bigger leap than I thought. So there have been a bunch of random things that have happened to this St. John's team. They haven't defended. For the majority of the season up until the last 3 games, this was not a strong defensive team. They've been dead last in the Big East in scoring defense, but these last 3 games, they found themselves on defense. They're a tough team. And today that toughness showed. And I think, look, they've built a hole for themselves because they're 3-5 still in the Big East. But they're not a team that deeper into the season. Let's look back. Mike Anderson showed in year 1, his team was playing their best basketball late in the season. They got a top 10 win over Creighton. They were up against Creighton at the Garden in the Big East tournament. And today that danger kind of showed. They hang around well in games, and they gamble defensively. So when you gamble, it can result in some good things. So, am I much like you said for UConn, it's not like you're concerned going forward. For St. John's, I still have some similar concerns. They still turned the basketball over a ton today. But by the same token, you need to get a win like this to be able to visualize it going forward. It happened. Mike Anderson only has 4 guys back that were regular contributors, and somebody might say, well, that's 4 more than some other teams have, or it's 3 more than some other teams have. It is, but Rasheem Dunn's a Cleveland State transfer. Julian Champagny is just a sophomore. There were still unknowns with this team, and after an offseason that was unlike any other, their defense kind of left them. It really did leave them. And I still think that they're a back end of the Big East team. But out of the back end teams, out of who you don't want to see, UConn fans would now know better than anybody. They're comfortable playing Butler. Marquette, they came back on. There's a mental factor. DePaul, they're better than. And but St. John's, like Josh Postler just put in, St. John's, they were so relentlessly competitive, and they were tougher than you. Mm-hmm. That's what Hurley just said in his post-game presser. He's right. Like, St. John's plays a New York City style. They're a tough team. You can't just put them away for the majority of teams they face. So I'm not any more like wholly bought in, but I think that today was kind of what I thought of when I thought of this team potentially being able to surprise some.
I think the rematch, I think it's a week and a half or so, should be interesting to see some lessons learned and see that play out, and go from there. Russ, I know you have a little punishment you owe UConn fans.
I do. If you weren't aware, a few days ago, I promised that I would post my hot sauce video before Dan Orlovsky did. Orlovsky beat me by a couple of hours, I think. So I will do a punishment shot for being late to the party here. So I've got my shot glass. This is Yankees logo.
Oh, God. Oh, my God. We're watching this happen live. I was going to ask, wait, what kind of hot sauce is this? Oh, hot sauce? That's alcohol. Oh, my goodness, on a Monday. Oh, I can't even think about it.
Things changed when they lost the game, John.
That's true.
That's my punishment shot.
That's true. So was it going to be a shot of hot sauce, and now it's alcohol because they lost?
Yes. If they won, it would have been the hot sauce. But, I need this.
We might have to hold him to an accountability shot there, and have a third one of hot sauce next time.
Defense says at the end of the season, will this SJUBB win be considered an upset? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
UConn is still better than St. John's. I am still pretty confident in saying that.
Yeah, they are. And I also I want to put this to bed, okay? Okay. So a lot of people are texting me. Mm-hmm. Some national insiders are texting me.
Uh-oh.
And saying, well, they won the game. They beat UConn, and UConn doesn't have book night.
Mm-hmm.
But it is what is it now? The fourth straight game that book nights happened because he was out for the Marquette, for the good portion of the Marquette game. Even when he played, he was a good boy. Right. Exactly. So, if you're gonna rip on teams or criticize teams when they don't do well, then you need to credit them when they win. It can be one way or the other. So, and that's how I always try to treat it. Credit to St. John's. They were down by 14 in this game. You're on the road where you've not done well. The contributors in this game were all underclassmen for the most part, at least the main ones. Alexander's a true freshman, and he didn't stop competing. And you could have lied down. So I'm going to credit St. John's for the win. It is an upset win. UConn, even without book night, is still a team that I would pick over St. John's. Mm-hmm. And St. John's came back and won this game. That's a signature win for Mike Anderson. St. John's fans are all fired up, and they, in year two of Anderson, they've been disappointed. They want to make it. And of course, your fan base, you're fired up. You want to win. But St. John's fans, I'm a Cleveland Browns fan. And all I've watched for 20 years until this season was job changes and dysfunction. And we think that firing a coach is going to solve player problems. It's not how it works. Yeah. Mike Anderson knows how to get a team to march. Mm-hmm. St. John's is not an easy job. Give the guy a chance. Today for me, when you're down by 14, you come back and win. That for me is a sign that you have something inside your building. You have this. And this is something that St. John's has not had in the past. It has not been a thing in their past head coaching tenures. And I'm not going to name any names, but you all know where I'm going. Mike Anderson has some of that.
Yeah, and when we were talking to you, John, on the Dime Back podcast last week, you were talking about how perfect of a fit Dan Hurley is at UConn. Mike Anderson's not the same obvious fit at St. John's by any stretch, but I think he's a very good one. He has the proven track record, as you said. He's at a school now that expects to win, even though, they don't have the history in the recent past. But he's not going to get rattled. He's not going to let a wild fan base with crazy expectations alter what he does at all. And he puts teams on the court that play hard. And that's what St. John's basketball really is all about. I think it's a good fit, and I think it's one that will prove itself over time.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think that, like, I hate to just use this stat, but the stat is too good to not use. In 2 decades, Mike Anderson has 9 NCAA tournament wins.
Mm.
In 2 decades, St. John's has 0.
I didn't realize it was 0. Wow.
0.
Wow.
Didn't have any. So, like, he kind of fell into their lap in the search. Everybody wanted Tim Cluess. I think they got a guy that can turn it around. It's going to take some time, though. I mean, they're not anywhere near where they're going to need to be. But like someone texted me today and was like, well, until the 4-star recruits get here, like this is how they're going to have to piece together. No, like that's not how you win always. You could bring them in. That's not necessarily how you're winning games. You have to be able to develop talent, whether they're 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll take a talent developer over a recruiter. And the biggest example of that is Kevin Willard at Seton Hall. I mean, he has not gotten kids. He got Isaiah Whitehead, but Miles Powell's a 3-star. They developed the hell out of him. They get transfers who they develop the hell out of. Like, you've got to be able to develop. You're not going to get the 4 or 5-star kid. And if you do, it's probably off some relationship. Even then, you're going to have to develop him. So for St. John's, like, that's the first step. And then roster continuity. Roster continuity is more important than anything in a sport that's roster continuity is continually fading.
So breaking news here per the Hurley press conference. No injury.
Scaring me here.
Breathe a sigh of relief. But the quote was, when they went small the last 10 minutes, we couldn't play Adama. And not sure I necessarily agree with it. But
why are you letting St. John's dictate what you do?
Agreed.
Well, and that's where the Creighton game is now big, in my opinion, because you can't let Creighton dictate what you do. No one does Creighton better than them.
Yeah. So we can wrap with this. I know it's not as fun on a loss, but in going with the hot sauce theme, my friend Chili at Wanky's Yankee Hot Pepper Products is bringing us the player of the game. So
all right. Wanky Yankees. That's a good name. I like it.
Wait, this is a real thing. Wanky's Yankees Hot Pepper Products. But
you got to watch my hot sauce video, John.
It's fantastic that you have a graphic build for this.
I come ready to play. So
I'm getting a screenshot of this. I love this post game show. I might just come on just to give out the player of the game. Going Yankees Hot Pepper Products. We have to. So does it have to be a UConn player, or can it be anyone?
I'll go UConn, John. You're unbiased. You can pick whoever you want. From my side, even though we missed some layups down the stretch, I'm going Tyrese Martin. Russ,
I got to go with Adama Sunogo for that. Really, that stretch in the second half, and also he's a freshman. He has elite level footwork and control in the post, which you do not see from somebody who's only played a handful of Division I games. I mean, if that's what you're getting from somebody in the 8th or 9th game of his career, I cannot imagine how good Sunogo can be a year or two down the road.
Agreed. John, your choice here.
I will go with Posh Alexander. St. John's doesn't win this game without him. He has an unlimited motor. He plays so doggone hard. This is the point guard that Mike Anderson needs for his program going forward. So I'm going to give it to Posh. Tough kid. He's a bull. And he was great in this game throughout when St. John's needed something to happen. And I asked him after, I was like, what was your mentality down the stretch? And he goes, look, Julian Champagny didn't play as well of the game. I need to be that guy for my team. I love a freshman who says that, who takes the ownership. That to me is what I want in a true freshman. I don't care. That was a win for St. John's that Alexander put his head down and said, we're going to find a way to win this game, and they did. And so I'm going to give it to Posh Alexander. By the way, Dan Hurley just now, this is from our friend David Borges. Hurley, quote, what we're looking for a cook to do and what a cook wants to do. It's a challenging situation. A cook is not ready to be out there physically.
Interesting. He's not. The quote is he's not ready to be out there physically.
And then a follow-up. A Cook is a pillar of this thing, meaning the program.
Mm-hmm.
A Cook and Book are building blocks in year 3 to make this big move. A Cook is not ready to be out there physically. He's going to have a chance to help our team, but he is so far behind.
I know all of the stops and starts that UConn has had really hindered his comeback from injury.
Sure.
Because he would get to the point where he was almost ready, and then UConn would shut down, and he would have to kind of start from 2 weeks behind again. It's a little concerning to hear Hurley say that when a Cook has now been back for 3 games. You would expect his minutes to slowly ramp up. I understand if he's not starting or if he's not playing 20 minutes a game right off the bat. Would have expected to see a little bit more from him today. Even though he didn't look great.
No.
And I think it's a little concerning that Hurley said he's not ready physically. I'm not really sure what to make of that.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see play out because you could see just in watching in the past 3 games that he's been there. And today, something just didn't seem right with him out. I don't know. It didn't seem like he was in the flow of things. There was one play where he went for a rebound and tried to tip it to guys, and instead of just grabbing the rebound, instead tipped it out. That led to a fast break at one point. So I definitely think there's some room to grow in it. And I think they've got enough depth in that part that if he's not ready, I wouldn't rush him back right now. And I'm fine with staggering those minutes for now.
Yeah, I am too. And this really wasn't the ideal game for him anyway, just with the way that St. John's plays. But yeah, I mean, I'm with you. They've got depth. They should be able to work him back in a relatively seamless way.
All right. Well, appreciate you guys hopping on tonight. John, you picked a good one. You picked group therapy nights.
Well, just to clarify, UConn's going to be fine.
Yes, I agree.
Do not I want to deliver this message to everyone. Okay, do not make any conclusions on anything in this league. 1, and 2, do not get worked up if you go to Omaha and get blitzed. It's just how this year's going to go.
Yeah.
You're facing Creighton and Zagorowski's on the floor, and you don't have book night. It's going to be hard. It's so hard to go out there. Yeah. By the way, they're not allowing much attendance in Omaha, but it makes a difference. If you watch Creighton play at home this year, you can hear those fans. You could still be mad. Game Day Milk says I can still be mad. You can absolutely be mad. You can both be mad and understand the big picture. UConn's going to be okay.
Yeah, agreed. Thanks to Russ and John for joining me today. John, you'll be back soon to give another Player of the Game award out there. Looking forward to it.
The best thing I've ever seen.
Amazing.
Hold on, let me do it in the broadcaster voice. Now we give you our Player of the Game, presented by Wanky's Yankees Hot Pepper Products. Wanky's Yankees, the ones that get it done.
Oh,
you're a treasure.
I love it.
Love you guys. Thanks.
Guys, thanks for hopping on. We'll talk later.
All right.